I was actually shushed at slave play. I was shushed by a white person when I went to see slave play. I will never forget that experience.
We can talk about that.
Yeah.
You like that pivot, right?
Yeah. Welcome to Black Star Reviews. I'm Anastasia X. I love art almost as much as I love Black people, so I started Black Star Reviews to shine a light on the work of Black creatives in New York City and beyond. We're back with another special episode, this time with guests. These interviews represent a first for Black Star. Special thanks to the National Black Theater, which is building its new home right down the street from me in Harlem, for facilitating this opportunity and giving Black Star this amazing exclusive. Can y'all believe that I booked an exclusive interview? Like, I don't think I'll ever get over this. So for the interviews, I got to sit down with Oya Mae Davis, the playwright of Packages Oh the Things We Deliver, and Daniel Boisrond, the show's director. This show was commissioned through the National Black Theater's I Am Soul Playwright Residency. And through the program, playwrights get to bring their shows to life with a full cast, a set, a director, all that, which is like a dream. And then they get to gather feedback from the audience. Since this show is still iterating, I was invited to interview the creative team rather than review the show. Now, y'all know I had never done this before, but you also know I'm a curious cat. So, of course, I said yes. I attended the last show of the run, which was on Easter Sunday, and I got to do the interviews right after the show. Don't tell my parents that I missed church. Thanks. Now, when I tell y'all they gave me the backstage experience, I really mean it. Like, you'll see we're in a little room. It's filled with production equipment, extra chairs, promotional posters, feedback forms. I tried to cut it out so you wouldn't see it, but I know some of y'all be looking close. So if you zoom in, you will be able to see the real behind the scenes environment. They also had to break down the set right after the show because it was put up at Chelsea Factory while the National Black Theater is under construction. So you're gonna hear some metal clanging, you're gonna hear some general construction sounds in the background because this is real, y'all, and we were really there, this was really happening. If I'm gonna keep doing interviews, I'll get a microphone or something, but I would love to know what y'all think. Do you want more interviews? Let me know before I, pull the trigger on a mic. So one last thing before we start the interviews. Each Black Star Review is dedicated to an ancestor who paved the way for Black artists, but this is not a review. What I took away from the show is actually a spirit of Ujima, which means collective work and responsibility. So you'll hear in these interviews that both Daniel and Oya Mae feel a responsibility to the community to tell stories authentically. They want to solve problems collaboratively, and they both gave so much credit to everyone, even the people who played a small part in bringing Oya Mae's vision to life. So the water is for the ancestors, and we're going to light a candle for Ujima. I did not think I was going to get that on my first try. This was stressful, but the ancestors. I'm so excited for y'all to hear from them, so let me get out the way. It's not every day that you get to sit down with a playwright and a director after the last show of a run, so I was very curious to know what this moment was like for them. Thank you again. My name is Anastasia, and I recently started Black Star Reviews. That's why I have this star.
Ooh,
Yeah. How do you see what I'm trying to do?
Yes, I see it.
What does this moment represent for you? The show is finished, right? You all just finished this run. You were the director, right? It's New York. What is this moment like for you?
Been a whirlwind. Like I've been in a hurricane. I just had a baby.
Congrats.
Thank you. Daughter number 2 with my wife. So I would really say like I'm really looking forward to like going back to being a dad. Like art is everything to me, but like once I had a kid, like what's next is not necessarily like as important as like what's here.
Yeah.
You know? I just want to go and cuddle with my family, change some diapers. No, I'm kidding, baby. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, first off, congratulations.
Thank you.
If there's a feeling that you feel like if you had to choose one. Whole.
And just watching something that has been inside me for the last like 4 years finally come to light.
Yeah.
Has just been something that I like. It's just hard to have words to describe how just pleased I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's strange for you to not have words as a playwright. Huge congrats to both Daniel and Oya Mae. Anyone who creates anything, whether it's content, a novel, a song, a painting, writes you a letter, they have an intention for the audience, something that they want people to feel or do after engaging with the work that they've made. And there's also, if you look close enough, little pieces of them in their work. I interviewed Oya Mae, the playwright, to ask about the ways that they've tied in their hometown, their family, and themselves. And don't miss the moment they talk about how they name their characters. I thought it was fascinating. There was a lot of, to me, spirituality in the show. And when I saw this show, one thing that seemed different to me in a pleasant way was that this was like masculine energy engaging with spirituality. Mm-hmm. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I just find that it's so different than what we see in the mainstream.
Just growing up, it was my dad who did most of the practicing of different like ancient practices. So he does voodoo. Mm-hmm. So I just grew up seeing both feminine and masculine energy doing spiritual practices. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And just because I feel like you were saying, just men, we don't really always show them. It's just something that I've never seen either. Mm-hmm. So it was just something that I wanted to bring in, but it was mainly just because I saw it with my dad and then a few of my friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why include Minneapolis in your work, and what does it represent for you?
So it's just like Minneapolis is kind of where my heart is.
Yeah. And
so that's why I decided to focus. Also, I've just been there all my life. Mm-hmm. My grandparents used to own a liquor store there.
So the pictures that were included in the show, the projections of the liquor store and the house, were those like real places for you?
The liquor store was. So Ken and Norm's liquor store mm-hmm. is my family-owned liquor store. Well, we don't own it anymore, but mm-hmm. Norman Davis, my grandfather, was the original founder of it, mm-hmm. along with a friend of his named Ken. And then the Gay 90s is a place that's also there. But I took like real facts and then put my own spin on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where do you see this show going?
My hope is that it will come to Minneapolis at some point. Mm-hmm. Just because I think it'd be interesting for people from there to see, to like, because they know of these places. Mm-hmm. So it'd be just like interesting for them to like just have that nostalgia.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of just seeing a play that shows just where they're from and stuff, and places that they interact with every day. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in that sense, is there a character that's Oya Mae in the show?
Probably a mix of all the characters. Slightly are a part of me. Specifically cells, I think. That's the character I most relate to.
Where did you choose Cell's name?
Cells is a nickname that was given to me by my father. My real name is Drusilla. So cells is the shortened version of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like I just uncovered a fun fact in there. So you said 4 years. This idea has been inside for 4 years.
Yeah.
Now, do you see it changing? Do you see a sequel? Do you see a prequel? What do you like? What questions do you have now, having seen it?
Yeah, I want to do a prequel just to tell the story of like the Ife, the grandmother and her relation, and the grandmother, and like how they saved the city the first time. And then I just wanna, just there's a few things that I just wanted to rearrange, some scenes that I wanted to rearrange. But seeing it performed by all the actors made me a lot more confident in the piece, and then hearing the responses from the audience, and just like how they were able to track things. And there still are some things that I do want to just like clean up and stuff, but like people were able to track stuff, so that was good.
How do you decide when to tell the audience and when to just let them figure it out, or when to make them wait?
I wanted them to see like him getting murdered, so then they kind of have an idea of it. But I really wanted just it to really click for them as soon as Cash found out. So but specifically for this piece, it was more important for the audience to see just like how Tino's grief and how the brothers are grieving due to his death and stuff. But I guess I kind of, the way I kind of choose what I want to tell and what I don't is just like depending on the ride I want the audience to go on. Like I was just more focused in just like just them seeing the brothers grief and just like grief and stuff.
What do you want the audience to take away from this piece?
There's always a way to heal. That though grief is sometimes hard, that there's always kind of a light. So just see the light at the end.
Yeah. I definitely took away that theme of healing from the show, and I was so inspired by Oya Mae's sentiment towards the project, just this warm feeling and that pride. I was so moved by that. Now, I haven't done it, but I imagine that writing a play or writing a film is very different than writing a novel, because you ultimately pass that work off to another visionary, that's the director, before your work reaches the reader or your audience. And I know that literature sifts through like the editing process before publication, but directors are way more hands-on than editors, because they could potentially shift the direction or the entire perspective of a story. I wanted to know Oya Mae's thoughts on working with a director on something that's so deeply reflective of them. I am a recovering control freak, so that really, really scares me, but it doesn't scare Oya Mae. In the next part, you'll hear from Oya Mae and Daniel, and I think you'll see how they really complement each other. I experience their personalities as very different, but they both have a love for pushing boundaries. What is it like to write a story, write a play, and then kind of hand it to not only the cast, but also the director to bring your vision to life?
I think at first it was a little difficult just to completely let go. Like I was still overthinking some things. I wasn't like, to myself, I wasn't sure if I was ready to do that. But like Daniel, the director, just kept on like comforting me and just telling me that it's time, and like we were just able to come up with questions that I still felt. I mean, answers to questions that I felt were unanswered. So he kind of helped me guide the process. And I like that, just like this being a collaboration piece. I feel like because like it helped because everybody has their different like experiences and stuff. So they were able to bring in ideas and stuff, and also just like connect the story in ways that I don't think I would be able to do if it was just me by myself. Yeah.
What kinds of stories speak to you, resonate with you? What kind of projects are you drawn to?
You know, I really love new work. I really like pushing the boundaries of the art form. I hope that like if I'm fortunate enough to continue to direct and do this, like that's kind of like the cookie trail of my work is like, you know, how much am I willing to like push the boundaries of the proscenium or like, you know, or the round or even the narrative. I'm in a space where Black narratives speak to my heart fully, but I'm also a theater nerd. So, you know, there's also like, you know, that desire to like, you know, take the classics and provide a new perspective. Because I do feel that like, that's something that I'm always trying to push myself to. It's like, you know, like, how can I create something that like I haven't seen before so that like my community who I am offering this to are going on the same ride that like I'm going, because really the ride is, oh shit, what the fuck is happening?
None of us have seen this before.
Yeah. So I like that. And it could be exhausting, but it's something really gratifying about it. You
know? I'm so curious about like directors, because you're taking a story that somebody has like poured their heart out on the page, right? And you're working with actors who have a way of doing things, but they're also expected to kind of tell the story as it's written. And then you have the person who is like leading this three-ring circus, and that's the director. What do you think you bring out of the actors that's specific to you and your style? And what do you think you are able to like bring out of the story, again, that's specific to your unique approach and style?
Ooh.
You like that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. Hey. I would say the thing that I try to be, or for everyone, is really rich soil. Because I feel that my job is, if I can show up with openness, then it allows my collaborator to collaborate and help us solve the problems together. Or otherwise, it wouldn't have been authentic. It would have been like a representation of something. And I feel like as a director, the goal is to bring as many visionaries, as many heads and, you know, and creative minds into the mix, and then allow them to shine individually. And really approach everyone like, hey, I don't know what's going on. Let's figure it out together. We're creating something new. We're creating, a new genre.
So now you've met Daniel, the director. I loved hearing from Daniel about his deep love for the Black community. And if you think Black artists and Black actors and Black plays are underrepresented, don't even look at the numbers for Black directors. You will be upset. Since I was face to face with a Black director in his element, I couldn't pass up the opportunity to ask about his practice, especially around inviting audiences in and fighting for authenticity. When I go to these shows and things, even when it's a Black creative at the helm, there's often not Black people in the audience. Now, National Black Theater does not have that problem, which I think is such a gift.
Such a gift.
But I just want to see more participation in the arts from across our whole community.
I think that's important for us to engage with the non-traditional theater goers. I grew up in the theater, but I grew up in the hood, so like I've always had friends who would be like, yo, D, man, like, I can't wait to, like, see a play, man, that ain't boring.
Right.
Or, like, I'm not, like, lost all the way through, but not fully entertained.
What is the thing where you're like, oh, if someone who is not a theater goer comes to this, I need to tweak. Can you give an example?
Yeah. One of the things I was thinking about was like environment. If I can bring them in a world that they're accustomed to, that they're familiar with, because I know the medicine is there. It's just getting them here.
Yeah.
So
what I love about National Black Theater is I feel like I can be my full self.
Oh yes, the audience was participating today.
Yes.
I loved it. Even if they're not fully tracking the plot, they're having a good time. You know, a lot of it was, even to be honest, even from like song selections, like 21 Savage.
So did you choose the songs?
Yeah, so it was a collaboration process.
Okay.
Yeah. So Oya had a series of songs laid out, and then we went back and forth. And what I was trying to capture was really like the true essence of like of us, like of the hood, our culture, the beauty of our culture, but also the elements that I would say like our counterparts, like white people wouldn't necessarily understand, you know, those like cultural idiosyncrasies that are within
that
the piece.
Insider info.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like when swag surfing comes on, right? That's for us. You get what I mean?
But the music helped me kind of seat them in my mind of like, oh, these are guys I could know, right? Like these are, like I probably know somebody exactly like these guys. Yeah, like they drinking Hennessy and listening to Migos, like that's Friday. Like,
right, exactly. True art is when everyone can see themselves. So, thank you.
There were so many gems in these interviews like that one. And this show was such an experience. There was time travel, portals to spiritual realms, magic, telekinesis, reincarnation. I imagine that it took some real effort to translate all of the imaginary elements into a real experience for the audience. So in the next part, Daniel shared about what it was like to be in the trenches, trying to bring his vision to life while also convincing people that he hadn't lost his ever-loving mind. In my mind, I'm picturing a living thing, right? And so like you are the soil that allows a living thing to really grow. And that living thing is the show, it's the vision, it's the experience.
Like I really had to have a vision so that like to stay grounded and being like, no. I know it is enticing to shift it, to make it more linear, to make it more digestible in ways, right? But why? It's a black sci-fi, right? Right? So when you first read it on the page, it's hard to get everyone in the same realm, in the same world. You know, you're really in the trenches of like, how are we going to make this true? How are we going to make this moment authentic? Like, it's lights that are here. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a little girl in that light. You know, like...
with the afro.
Yeah, so it's like, okay. You know what I mean? Like, you were tracking things enough to grab that little detail.
Well, because listen, I had the puffs as a kid. As soon as she popped up, I said, does she have puffs?
That's so beautiful because whether it's sonically, the music we had coming in, you know, visuals, engagement, there were a lot of moments in the play that we discovered and then it was like, oh, the play has to move not only through music but through dance. What kind of dancing is it? Is it choreographed? You know what I mean? Like, or is it vibe?
Right.
And I remember at the point in time when I was saying that, people were like, this nigga crazy. You know what I mean? Like, what? We're having like design and production meetings, like the end is like Dragon Ball Z, and like they're like shooting fire out of their hands, and they're like,
this nigga crazy.
You're like, what?
I mean, listen, if people haven't called you crazy, you need to take a few more risks. So like I said, this show was commissioned as part of the I Am Soul residency at National Black Theater. So after each show, there are talkbacks with the creative team and the cast, and they ask the audience to give feedback through forms. Now, keep in mind that I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my shit. That's Erykah Badu, but it's also me because the idea of feedback forms terrifies me. So of course, I had to ask Daniel what it was like to be critiqued by audience members after every show. You all use feedback forms for the run of this show. Mm-hmm. How do you incorporate audience feedback into your practice as a director?
I think like those talkbacks that we've had the past couple of nights have been really, really, really powerful in a way of letting me know that like we don't have to be like traditional. Like we can be nonlinear with our storytelling. And, you know, Black folks are willing to grapple with confusion. You know what I mean? And like uncertain, like, what's happening here? Like, like we're willing to grapple with the ambiguity, which I feel like, you know, we'll grapple with Christopher Nolan, you know, in like Inception, or like, you know, we'll like sit with them. We'll like sit there and like, but when it comes to like a Black piece, are we willing to open up ourselves to a similar experience?
Right. So there were times when I was like picking up little threads and clues, thinking, "Oh, I'm 2 steps ahead." I was 1,000 steps behind. Like,
and that's the point of it. That is absolutely the point of it. And that's the way I was thinking about it as well. And that's why like the pace of it goes like it goes without allowing you time to kind of like process. Because then you're not going to lean into the piece.
Yeah.
Then you're kind of like a passenger. And the piece requires you to be active. And I think, you know, for me, hearing that in the talkbacks and seeing, you know, some of the feedback from the surveys being like, no, it being non-linear was very important.
Yeah.
And them understanding that that is connected to grief, the disorientation of the piece. You know what I mean?
I hadn't considered that.
So, like, you're actually going through grief when you watch it. You're smiling, you're confused, you're like, oh, you're like, what the fuck? You're like, now we're at a wrap.
What a gift to be affirmed by your audience and to know that they were picking up what you were putting down, that you were making sense, that they saw value in your work. Every feedback form, every like, every comment, it can mean a lot to the people who put their souls on stage, on camera, and even on the page. Keep that in mind next time you're in an audience. Remember to share your thoughts, tell a friend. It means a lot to the people who create these experiences for us. We are about to close both interviews with a preview of Oya Mae and Daniel's current and upcoming work. Before we do that, I know that you know where to find me, right? I'm here. I'm also on Instagram and TikTok at blackstar.reviews. But I hope you'll support Daniel and Oya Mae by sharing this video, following them on Instagram to keep up with their future work, and leaving a comment that they can read here. 2 interviews done, 98 more to go. So, Daniel, where can we find more of your work? How can we keep up with you?
Daniel Boisrond on Instagram is a great place to follow me. I have work out now. I have I Digress, which is a web series that I created several years back, which is on YouTube. You should check it out. I think you'll dig it. I think you will dig it.
What's next? What's the next thing we'll be hearing your name associated with?
Currently, I'm working on the I have the Jerome Hill Artist Fellowship.
Congrats.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'm trying to just figure out my piece for that right now. So I'm hoping that I'll have something together by the end of the fellowship.
Well, I can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
It was so nice to hear a little bit about your process and your thinking and even your aspirations. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Black Love and Starlight. Stay shining, y'all.